We're going to start setting up our farm by first installing a SQL Server and a Citrix license server today. So in order to do that, we need to log on to the domain controller, because this is where Automation Machine was installed. Password, yeah. And I already downloaded the software, so I got an ISO containing SQL Server 2012, and I got an ISO with XenApp 7.6 Enterprise Edition, just freshly downloaded from the website. Nothing happened to those. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to import that media into Automation Machine. We're going to build those systems from the ground up, so we're starting with the actual software that needs to be deployed. So we'll go to Media, and then we're going to select the Import Media option, where you can just browse to the ISO or the folder that where you have the software installed. Let's type in the vendor name, Microsoft SQL Server, and a version, and import. And what Automation Machine does, it will basically unpack the ISO and copy those files into a central file share, so it's neatly organized. What you will notice is that when we import software, we also assign a revision to the software, meaning that if you got a different ISO or an updated ISO, maybe from your packaging department, you can have the same software with different installers assigned to it. This might be interesting for a DTAP scenario where your production environment might still be using revision 1 and your acceptance or your test environment is already using a newer revision of the same software. Yeah, let's import Citrix as well. There we go. And the same goes for Citrix, nicely unpacked into the central repository of Automation Machine. So next up is creation of the actual packages, and the packages are basically the commands that you give Automation Machine to start deploying, not only deploying but also configuring the package. And I like to, especially if it's a small environment, I just like to organize packages based on their vendors. I'm going to create a Microsoft and Citrix category. And we're going to cheat a little bit here. Instead of creating the packages from scratch, I'm actually going to our template store, and this is where we have already uploaded a lot of templates for the well-known desktop virtualization systems like XenDesktop. So let's first look for a few packages that we have created that we're going to need for this build. First is a package to disable the Internet Enhanced Security configuration. Really annoying feature on a Windows server. Next up is the SQL Server. We got a package for that as well. Download. And the last one is the actual Citrix license server. You could create these packages yourselves, obviously, but that's something for a different tutorial later on. So we downloaded those packages. One thing that you need to know about the XenDesktop 7.6 license server is that the installer actually contains a bug. So if you install it unattendedly, then your access control configuration will not be fully functional, and we fixed that actually in our Automation Machine package. There's a lot of nice things that you can do if you have a tool like Automation Machine at your disposal. So just importing those packages. First one is disable enhanced Internet Enhanced Security configuration, Internet Explorer security configuration, and let's also import our SQL Server package. Yeah, just shows you what it's going to import. And this package, let's just immediately configure our parameters for this package. As you will see, that each package can have its own parameters. These are the parameters that were actually created by the creator of the package. So this is not something that Automation Machine does automatically. This is something that the engineer who created the SQL Server package actually created for us. This package actually uses media, so I'm going to assign the media that I imported earlier to this particular package. So now Automation Machine knows that this package is using a particular media from the from our media store, and now I can actually change this full path to the relative path of the media as done here. If I now export this package, I have the option to also export the media with that package immediately. Last one for today is the XenDesktop image, the XenDesktop license server package. And you'll find here the Citrix license administrator group. We'll just leave it as is, and we'll assign it to, of course, the Citrix CD. And now let's quickly check the path. This is just an external. As you can see, the path is incorrect. So now we can just browse relative to the software that we just imported earlier. So looking for the XenDesktop server setup. Yep, there we are. Open. And it will just import. I'll show you the relative path relative to the imported media, and obviously the arguments remain the same. Next up are layers. We need to create at least one layer, and I'm just going to create a Datastore layer that contains all the packages that we just imported. A layer logically groups one or more packages, and it makes it easier to assign those packages to collections. So instead of doing individual packages, you can assign complete layers. And the nice thing is that any dependencies in ordering can be locked in place using those layers as well. So if you assign this layer to a machine, then it will always deploy these packages in this particular order. And then lastly, we're going to create our collections. And I always like to start with a parent collection that basically groups all the collections that belong to a particular environment together. So in this case, I'm going to create a XenApp 7.6 collection, parent collection, which I'm going to leave unconfigured, completely empty, just for organizational purposes. And this is going to be the actual collection, the Datastore, which is part of the XenApp 7.6 farm, and it's a generic server. It's not a terminal server or a VDI environment, a VDI machine. So Datastore, let's just add the layer that we just created to assign the packages to this particular collection. And now we can configure how Automation Machine should behave on this particular collection. So we need to enable and configure all the plugins that we're going to use. In this case, I'm just going to enable deployment, leave maintenance and imaging alone, skip to system configuration, enabling it, and then I need to configure my root OU. You might remember from configuring our lab environment that we created this root OU in Active Directory. So there was this OU called AM where we stored the staging OU and the AM service account, and this OU is needed here as well. It needs to be AM in this case, and this is where Automation Machine will move all its computers, automatically create OUs and so on. And same goes for security. Let's enable the plugin and then override our default setting by changing this with AM, and you'll see later on why that is useful. So we're fully configured, and now we're going to add our target machines. So in this case, I'm going to import my Active Directory, looking for my demo servers, and there it is. Let's add it. Okay, and assign it to the Datastore collection. There we go. So now when you deploy this machine, Automation Machine will know what to do with this particular machine and start building this Datastore and license server on top of that. So now it's time to start deploying our SQL server. All the commands that you see here, including the initialize AM, all rely heavily on PowerShell remoting. Normally I would put this in my images, but in this case it's just a next finish installation of Windows. I need to do this manually. I could also do it through policy, but so we got this this document here on our website, how to set it up. It's just 2 commands. One command for the automation machine computer that just needs to be issued once, of course. So this command goes to the computer where automation machine is installed. Let's open up the... Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, PowerShell did not agree with me. No. Let's restart PowerShell and run that particular command. And the other part of this is where we also execute a certain command on the target machines. Again, normally you would put that in a policy or in the image, so you don't have to do it for each machine over and over again. But the target machine being the SQL server at this point, we'll just have to execute the other command. Let's just log on to the SQL server. There we go. Password. Yeah, there we are. And then run it as an administrator. Just before we continue, I always want to check the execution policy. I'm just going to be lazy. I'm just going to set it to bypass, and then I'm going to issue the command. There we go. Now, to make sure it all works, let's go back to our dashboard, select the machine, and test the connection. There we go. Okay, that works. So now we're going to deploy. We're going to initialize AM, and basically what that does, it will push a PowerShell script to the target machine, which will install the PowerShell module, and it will create a small local cache with all the relevant information for that particular machine, all the instructions that the machine needs to actually start deploying. And once it has done that, it will issue a reboot command, and after that reboot command, our service account will take over and start deploying the machine. This is just one way that you can use to initialize AM. In another tutorial, we'll have a look at one of the others as well. So from here on, it's a hands-off process. We've given the target machine all the configuration details it needs to become fully operational in a matter of moments. It will just restart and deploy and restart again until it's completely ready to go. I'm not going to wait around for that. I'm just going to go grab a cup of coffee, and I'll be back after the deployment of the machine has been completed. And we're back. According to the dashboard, deployment has finished. So let's log on to the target machine and see what happened. Logging on as different user, logging on as the lab login AM administrator. Password, and let's see how this worked out. So our server manager, and let's first check out the icons. Is there a Citrix? Yes, there is a Citrix license administrator, and there is also a SQL server icon. Let's see if we can launch those. And the license administrator, where are you? There you are. Oh, Internet Explorer. Nice. Yeah, there we are. There are no licenses in here. It's just a deployment. Would be possible to add licenses as well. Piece of custom scripting. Let's log on using our administrator account. Submit. Seems to work, and we have also added our license administrators group. This is a custom group that we have added using Automation Machine, and obviously our service account is a member as well. Let's see if we can log on to the SQL server. And there we are, up and running. No databases yet, but our SQL server is there, successfully deployed. Now let's check out the enhanced security configuration, and it's off just as we wanted. So that's the deployment part. There's another part that we need to check, and for that we're going to go back to the domain controller and we're going to check out the log folders. These are the log files, just to give you an idea on how Automation Machine logs. Let's open it with WordPad. Open with, yeah, WordPad. This is how I like to view my log files. Basically a PowerShell transcript, but it gives you a fairly detailed overview of what Automation Machine has been doing in the background, step by step. And also the custom scripts that you've imported are all the output is in those files, so you get a really nice overview of what is going on. And then let's go to the domain controller, and I think we need to refresh first. Yeah, let's go. And as you can see now, there's a tutorial environment OU, which was staging we already had. We also had the AM service, but there's now also a tutorial environment, and that tutorial environment contains a groups and a XenApp 7.6 OU, and the groups contain the tutorial dash Citrix license administrators, and the XenApp 7.6 contains the Datastore OU, and we've actually moved the computer account to the correct OU. So that's about it. Our farm is slowly but surely taking shape. Next time we'll start deploying our XenApp worker service.